Hi, my name is Rod Cleef, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Cleef, and I am thrilled that you're here. And I'm also super thrilled to interview the two wonderful ladies that I'm interviewing today. Their names are Annie Dickerson and Julie Lamb, and they are they operate Goodegg Investments, which we're going to dig into because there's a reason they use that name, and it's very impressive. And they've got over 800 million in assets under management. They've written a book called Investing for Good, the surprising strategy for building wealth while also making an impact. And they also co-host a podcast that I was on that you need to check out called The Life and Money Show. So very excited to have them on the show. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
Rod.
Absolutely. So, maybe you could kind of give us a little background on how, did you start out in real estate? Did you start out in a, some sort of a tech job? Or because I know you guys are California or some other W-2 role and migrated to real estate. Just give us a little background if you would.
Well, this is Annie. I can start, and Julie,
Sure.
Maybe you can stack on top. I
Wonderful.
never intended to get into real estate. Julie will tell you she grew up wanting to be an entrepreneur and having her own business. I was the complete opposite. I never wanted to have my own business. It was never my intention. I started out as an elementary school teacher, and then I got into game design because I wanted to create educational games. And then I got into adult learning and development, creating trainings, gamified trainings for companies. So I was having a blast climbing the corporate ladder. I wanted nothing to do with real estate, but my husband and I sort of fell into house hacking. We had this great realtor back when we lived in Washington, D.C., who thankfully in our 20s talked us out of buying a condo or a loft in a trendy neighborhood in DC. And he said, why don't you get something more practical? These row homes in DC, a lot of them have not one, but 2 units. And you could live in one unit and rent out the other. And he said, if you play your cards right, after a certain amount of time, you could get that to be cash flow positive. And here I am, teacher, no background in real estate. I had never heard those words together before. And I heard those words, cash flow positive. I was like, I don't know what that means, but I want that. Give me some of that. So tell me where to sign. I will sign up for that. And so we fell into that first house hack. And then it worked so well, we got another duplex and another and another. And it was always something we were doing in the background. But once we moved to the Bay Area, my husband, all of a sudden, he was in tech, but he decided he wanted to be in real estate all of a sudden. So he got into real estate. And of course, then I was like, I'm definitely not getting into real estate. We can't be one of those couples that were both in real estate. So he gets into real estate, and I'm climbing the corporate ladder. I'm watching his business grow exponentially year after year. I'm like, what is going on? And one year he says, well, why don't you help me with my business? I said, I don't have a lot of time, but you know what? I'll read a book. I'll read a book, and maybe something will come out of that. And along the way, I stumbled across his website and realized, oh, Rod, it was bad. It was this dark purple page, single page with text on one side and his photo on the other side. That was the whole website. And I said, oh, I could do better than this. So I took it upon myself that summer to redo his website. And that's when I fell in love with real estate, not residential real estate that he was doing, but really figuring out how to invest in real estate. And it was all I could talk about anytime we got together with friends and family. And so started gaining this natural network of people who wanted to invest with me. And so that's when I discovered the world of syndication, which is what we focus on now. And that's how I met Julie. But Julie, actually, she has a very sort of parallel track, even though we didn't meet until just a few years ago.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. So it's funny. My story is kind of very similar to Annie's. My mom actually, it's so funny where it actually started. My kind of real estate journey was my mom offered me the opportunity, or actually, this is where it didn't start and should have started. 20 years ago, she offered me the opportunity to buy a house from her for basically what was like left on the loan in an area here in the Bay Area, in San Francisco Bay Area. That's like one of the nicest neighborhoods. It's actually the house that I grew up in. And I was like, what do I want with this like old junky house with like root problems and like roof issues and all these things? No, thank you. I'm gonna go off and do law school, and I've got better things to do than deal with old properties, right? And that's where it should have started, but where it actually started was in 2009 with my husband, and it was a great time to buy. And we were just buying our primary home, and we were looking at, building wealth. And that's what most people do, is buying real estate to build wealth. So got in 2009, bought a bunch of properties since then, and realized that I wanted to scale and go bigger faster. And that's how I got into commercial real estate, and started a capital raising company about 8 months before I met Annie, and then met Annie. And it was kind of love at first sight, I guess you could say. She had all of the things that I lacked, and she felt the same, vice versa. And our strengths kind of offset our weaknesses. So yeah, that's kind of the quick story.
I'm so glad you went there, because I was going to go there and you beat me to it. Because most, we all know, they've heard, anyone listens to me has heard it ad nauseum that this business is a team sport. Yeah. And because you guys are such a dynamic team, I wanted to go there to find out, how that was. Sounds like you started talking about how you met, that you met, but really want to talk about how you aligned and kind of fell into the different roles that I assume you play now. Maybe I'm sure there's some overlap, but can you speak to, Annie, you want to start speaking to the team dynamic of the two of you?
So a few months into, knowing each other, Julie and I got together, and, we were contemplating the partnership, but we didn't want to rush into things yet. We were talking to our coaches and advisors and friends and family and trying to figure out, is this a good idea? How should we go about this?
Smart. Yeah.
And one day we came together to have a brainstorming session, which was really pivotal in putting this partnership together. This is an amazing activity. We used to do this all the time when I was in the world of creative design. It's part of the design thinking process. So what we did was we came together, we had a stack of Post-it notes and some Sharpies. And we said, okay, what's your vision for the future of this company that we're building together?
You asked each other this, yes? You asked each other this. Got it. Okay, love it.
Exactly. It's like when you get married, right? You think, how many kids do you want to have? Where do you want to live? What kind of house do you want to buy, right? But rather than just talking about it, we did this exercise, which really shortcut the process. And what we did was we just set a timer for about 10 minutes, and we each had a stack of Post-its, and we just wrote anything that came to mind, anything that we wanted for the future of this business we were building. And at the end of the 10 minutes, we came together and we had this stack of Post-it notes, and we started putting them up on the wall, all these colorful Post-it notes. And we started seeing basically into each other's brains. And we started to see, oh my gosh, we align on so many of these aspects. And not only that, as we were sorting the Post-its, we got a glimpse into what it would be like to work together, because we would start saying, I wonder where this one goes. Oh, I think this one goes together with this one. Let's pair this one together. Or what were you thinking? Was this one like, right away, or do you want to do this years down the road? And it helped us to really foster a conversation and see how that collaboration and that negotiation would work.
That is freaking brilliant. And I know that came from you, Annie, because you're the creative in this bunch, right? I'm certain that process came from you. I want to add something here, because I talk about partnership all the time. In fact, I'm going to offer a free resource that I created that I just used for my new partnership as well. But the thing that I love the fact that you saw that you were aligned on your goals, because so many people don't do that piece. Now, me included. Okay, so that was really insightful. I've got a resource called The Questions to Ask When Forming a Partnership, and if you guys want it, just text the word partnership to 72345. It's got a whole list of questions, because what'll happen and is, people will get excited about each other and they'll do what you did, but then they don't ask the hard questions. Like, what happens if somebody dies? Who's going to do what? Who gets a salary? How are we going to structure this? Well, how are we going to take title to assets in what fashion? Has anybody had legal issues in the past? Do you have any upcoming major monetary needs? I'm just looking at some of these questions. So these are the hard questions that most people avoid. And, I host the largest multifamily mastermind, I think, in the world now. We've got somewhere well in excess of 14 billion in assets in there, maybe more than that even. And there's two people in that mastermind, a male and a female, that own, 4, 5, 6,000 units each. And they just went through massive breakups because they didn't ask these hard questions. And so, I want to let Julie have a chance to talk, but if you guys want this resource, just text partnership to 72345. I just want to add one other thing, because you guys instantly had rapport because, you're both Asian, you're women, you're both attractive, and you obviously connected at that level immediately. But the other thing that's so critical when you're aligning with people is to trust your gut. And women have incredible intuition. It's not a sexist thing. It's just reality, guys. Sorry to say that they're better at this than we are. And your brain is so powerful that it can see these micro nuances subconsciously that you don't see consciously. And if something doesn't feel right when you meet someone, trust it. Every time I've ignored it, I regretted it. So anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't want to steal your thunder, but I wanted to add to that because this was a great teaching opportunity. So Julie, please give us your version of that.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny that you say that, Rod, because intuition is such a female thing, right? Women are out there picking the berries. That's what we're supposed to do, is we're out there picking the berries. We can see everything. We know what's going on as mothers too. We know what's happening behind us. And men sometimes are, and again, not to be sexist or whatever, men are so,
that's right.
See the goal, go for it. Doesn't matter.
I'm holding by the way, those of you listening, I'm holding my hands up the side of my face because men have tunnel vision. Okay.
Yeah. So that is certainly something that I think Annie and I realized early on. I think even through like an app, I think that was when we first met, like the very first time. And it was just like this intuition of like, this is a woman I need to talk to and meet up with.
Wow.
And, I had explored various partnerships before I had met Annie that didn't go well, and trusted my gut. Right. And it was like something happened. They didn't show up for a meeting. They didn't return a call. And I was like, yeah, how is this really going to pan out in the long term if it's not working out now? So definitely listen to my gut. But one of the biggest things that, that story that Annie was telling, the sparks started flying for me when I realized that she had the strengths that offset my weaknesses.
Yes.
And I always talk about, any of your listeners, like if you're looking to form a partnership, the way you form like a power team, like a super duo, is you go out there and you find somebody whose strengths are your weaknesses. Because you can try to make your weaknesses as you perfect them all you want, but at the end of the day, it's just not what you're good at. Right. And I knew that early on. And so when I met Annie and she was like, this is what I love to do, which is my weakness, I was like, oh my gosh, we need to talk about a partnership. And I think I might have even been the one that like pitched you and was like, what do you think? Do you want a partner? Because I kind of knew she was like the missing puzzle piece for me. So that was it for me.
Let me expand it. Let me expand on something you just said, because it's so insightful. Don't try to build your weaknesses. Do what they did, because if you're playing in your strengths, number one, you're enjoying it. Okay. You're going to have fun and you're going to be passionate about it. If you're doing what you don't love, there's no passion. And if you don't have passion, there's no way you're going to influence people to sell to you, to invest with you, to work with you, none of that. So if when you meet somebody that complements you and is strong where you're weak, success is freaking inevitable if you're both working in what you love. So, well, listen, I'm really glad we spent some time on this, because I will say, I think it's one of the biggest secrets to success in our business is those alignments. Like me, my last partner was a CPA. You could throw him and this was analysis versus outgoing in our dynamic. Okay. And I'm the mouthpiece, obviously. And he's you could throw him in a room with a spreadsheet and throw raw meat in once in a while, and he's happy as heck, so that was our dynamic. Yours is creativity versus, and so I'm guessing, Annie, you'd be the more analytical one? Yes, no, maybe? Or are you both analytical?
I think Julie is more, these days, she more takes she's the visionary, and
Okay.
she also takes the lead on the acquisition side of the business, looking at the deals and all that stuff. And
So she
I
does
take
the
the
deal
leader.
analysis then.
She
Yeah,
leads
I
the
would have
team
picked
that
it the
does
other
that. Yeah.
way. Wow. Okay. I was dead wrong. Okay. All right. Wow. When you said you were in tech and gaming and all that, that's a lot of
Yes.
code and so,
Oh,
but
yeah.
you're obviously both very analytical then, I would guess. Okay. Very, very interesting. Well, so let's talk about the Goodegg. I mean, just the component of where that came from and how that shows up in your organization, what that looks like, where, you know, it's not just about money, because that is super dear to my heart. You know, anybody that, you know, which is, I got to be candid. Power moves to those who serve, and that is absolutely a huge secret to success. I see it with my students. I'm extraordinary. I just got an email yesterday from one of my students that's building a school in India, you know, and he's super successful. And so let's talk about you guys. Talk about that, if you would.
Absolutely. We came together to serve. That was the
Okay.
entire reason we got together, was because we saw a need with these other moms out there, busy moms who are, you know, they're trying to take care of their families, do the carpool, do the laundry. They had all this stuff, and they were working their jobs, and they were still not able to get ahead. And we wanted to offer them something that maybe they didn't know about, that maybe previous to us, they didn't feel like they had a place in real estate. They were too intimidated by it. Maybe the financial world, they felt just wasn't for them. We wanted to create a space for them, an experience for them where they felt like, hey, wait a second, I can do this. I can contribute in this way. I can be part of this. And not only that, I can teach my kids about this. And so we set out to really create that experience. And that culture has been pervasive, not only amongst our investors, but amongst the team that we're growing as well.
And so you target women then. Your demographic is your large demographic is primarily women then, is what I'm hearing. Yes.
Women and families. Yeah.
Women and families. No, I love it. I absolutely love it. So, you know, not so they don't just invest, you know, and of course I can tell, you know, good operators spend time teaching behind the scenes what's going on in a deal, like we do webinars and email. We just sent an email today or yesterday to you know, on a particular asset that we have. And so that's a component of this. Well, let me ask you this. Okay. You guys have a lot of stuff on assets under management. Let's go the other direction for a minute. Everybody thinks that this is all roses and glory and a success just falls in your lap and there are never any setbacks. Talk about a failure. I call them seminars, but talk about a seminar that happened, you know, a dramatic one, if you have one, and really the lesson that you got out of it. And if there was one, and I'm sure there always is. So talk about one of those.
Oh gosh. Do you want to share which one do you want to do?
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
You have to do the one. You have to do the one she's alluding to now. Okay. That's not going to get by. And I'm going to know if it's not the right one now that you said that. Come on now. Let's hear it.
Yeah. Go for it, Annie. You know which one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We've got a few zingers now.
Give me the big one.
I know which one she's talking about.
All right.
This is the first deal. Yeah. The first deal that we got into together. And, you know, we were fresh off of creating this partnership.
Wet behind the ears is the expression.
Right. We're ready. We were hungry, Rod. We were like, let's go. You know, you were able to raise this amount. I was able to raise amount. Let's go. Let's see what we can do together. And so we had this opportunity come across our desk to partner in this deal. And this was somebody we knew sort of, but not.
Partner with someone else in the deal. Got it.
Yes. Partner with somebody else. So as
there were
us,
several partners.
That was the issue. So there were multiple partners in the deal. I think there were something like 7 or 8 different partners in the deal, lots of different personalities. And, you know, we didn't know what we didn't know. So we got into it. It was a good market, a good deal. We were looking at the numbers and we believed in the deal. but we didn't ask all those hard questions that are in that resource of yours. We didn't ask all those questions. We just said, we're ready for a deal. Our investors are ready. Let's get into this. And so we did.
I just want to cut in right here. These were people who were experienced operators.
Yes.
So that's a thing to keep in mind, right? Because I think when we were very new, we thought, these are experienced operators. They must know what they're doing. And it's not that they didn't know what they were doing in a lot of ways, but it was the partnerships. There was lots of things, but I think we just went on their experience and we trusted that.
I want to add something to this. Listen, I got in a deal and I'm actually flying out there tonight because it's finally under contract to sell. Thank you to the Lord. But this was a deal that I got pushed. Well, I'm going to say pushed. I mean, I agreed to do it. And bought for 16 and a half, sold for 28. So, I mean, we did okay, but what a nightmare. And the partner in this deal had a management company and obviously knew how to manage A and B assets, crashed and burned on a C asset. So again, had 4,000 doors when we met. So I assumed, like you guys did, and so anyway, please continue. But this is very common. So just because somebody has experience, dig in, okay? Because their experience may not relate. Like in your case, the experience, they probably didn't have experience having multiple personalities in a deal. Maybe, I don't know. I'm conjecturing. Please continue.
Yeah, what we discovered along the way was there was a lack of alignment between their vision and our vision for the deal. It was a C-class asset, or it was actually 2 assets. And what had happened was there were a couple of lead sponsors on the deal, and they sort of viewed us as almost like customers. And they weren't sharing and being totally transparent with us. They wanted to figure out the answer and then present that to us along the way. They weren't including us in the problem solving, what was going on behind the scenes. So we were kind of left in the dark. We thought things were going along just fine. We didn't hear about anything. And then several months into the project, we hear that there's no money left in the deal. There's no reserves. We'd let it dry. And not only that, we owed a bunch of money on all these bills. And we're like, what happened? We thought, we had underwritten all these cash reserves. What happened? And that's when they went back and they said, oh, we probably should have told you this earlier, but the appraisal, this is before we even closed on the deal.
The loan proceeds weren't enough. Got it.
Yeah. The appraisal came in $200,000 under. But here's the kicker. Rather than tell us at that point so that we could all pitch in and maybe continue raising after it closed, they said, okay, well, we'll go with that and we'll just move forward, like the goal, right? We see the goal. We're just going to go and we're just going to continue with the business plan as is. And that's exactly what they did. They didn't adjust anything. They didn't think about, okay, well, given that, let's go this different course. They just kept going. And then after a certain amount of time, there was nothing left. And so then we had to come together, and you can imagine with multiple partners in the mix, everybody had a different idea at that point. And so as a lot of these tough conversations trying to figure out how to do best by our investors, how to get the deal on solid footing. It was a lot of tough conversations.
You have to put money in?
That's another thing. We wanted to put our own money in to continue paying out distributions to our investors. But because there were all these partners in the deal, everybody had to be on the same page. Otherwise it would dilute the shares of everybody else. And so we weren't able to, even though we wanted to. But at the end of the day, what happened was all the partners did agree to put our money in to make the deal whole. So we did do that as a team.
Got it. Yeah. Now that's what happened on this deal as well. I mean, we've got $3 million from the GP in the deal to make it survive, because it was just a train wreck. When we finally got the management away from this guy, it was at about 90 to 100 grand a month in revenue. I got it up to 280. And thank God, it's under contract now. But okay, so the lesson is what? What was the lesson that you got from that experience?
Well, we got a lot of lessons from that.
Yeah.
One is always ask the hard questions. Take your time. Don't jump into a deal. Nowadays, we vet partners very carefully. We take time. We invest our personal money with those partners if we can before we bring any of those deals to our investors.
I see.
So there's a lot of
So
little
you
things
guys
that
are,
have changed.
sorry to interrupt. You guys will align with operators and bring equity, and then obviously do more than bring equity, because you can't just bring equity. Sounds to me like you were maybe a little hands off on that first deal, and you a little more than you should have been, because otherwise you would have been in tune with it. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a valuable one. Thank you for sharing that. And
the other thing, Rod, can I just inject
please.
something here? The other thing that I would say that I've learned, and this is something for your listeners to keep in mind if you're looking to get active into these deals, is consider how many partners there are, GP partners.
Right.
When you've got a deal with like 10 different GP partners, you have to understand the potential of the disaster that could happen when you have so many different people that are trying to run the deal. And everyone has to have a say in the asset management, right? Legally, that's part of it. They can't just raise capital. They've got to have a say. So it's something to think about. And as we've moved forward over the years, we've realized that we'd like to stay in deals where there's just a handful of us, so that we can keep the conversations short and to the point and aligned. So just another thing.
No, that's very, very, very good. So besides that moment, are there any other aha moments for you two that you can recall in this journey of yours where you're like, okay, now I get it with this particular situation? Anything come to mind when I ask that question?
Communication. I always go back to communication. It has been paramount in not only Annie and my relationship over the years, but also in the partners that we have worked with. Going back to the trust your gut, right? If you don't have good communication early on, trust me, it's not going to get any better. We just went through something at the end of last year that really showed us that if we didn't have the communication with our partners, like excellent communication, where they call us, we call them, we're aligned every step of the way, that it could have potentially been a really, really big disaster. And so communication is huge. I think, going back to the trusting your gut thing, I think is really big too. And, really, I would say the only other thing that I've really learned over the years is mindset. Mindset is like, I feel like it's like 85-90% of what we do. Believe in yourself first. If you don't believe, you're never going to take the actions you need to succeed. And if you don't take the actions, you're never going to see the success. And it's just like this cycle that you fall into. I'm taking that from Tony Robbins, right? So believing in yourself when you first get into this, that you can do it. Had you told me 4 or 5 years ago that I would be sitting here talking to you, Rod, I knew you, I've known of you from a long time ago.
That's sweet. Thank you.
And, you having us here with all that we've done, I wouldn't have believed it. But we worked with coaches. You're a coach, you know how that works. And I know you probably talk about mindset a lot. And
my listeners have heard what you just said, literally ad nauseum. So yeah, guys, I so love that you said it I didn't coach you to say it. And so here you just heard it. 800 million under management, guys. Hello. That's a clue what you just heard. Yeah, no, I literally do an episode every week called Own Your Power. And that's in the intro, that 80 to 90% of your success in anything is mindset. So you just, repeat what I say literally daily. So I love that you said that. And I want to actually hammer something home that you said about communication. I have had partnerships that have failed, and it has always been around communication every single time. In fact, this one with this gentleman I was just talking about on this asset that I'm flying out to tonight, he very unresponsive and never answers emails and so on and so forth. And that was absolutely a component of this debacle that we finally cleaned up, thank God. Anything to add, Annie? Any aha, like, wow, like maybe a specific moment in time, whatever. I don't want to steal it, but whatever comes to mind with that question.
Yeah, the mindset thing is huge. I'll add on top of that, there was this one moment that I think changed the trajectory of our business. And it was the moment we sat down to decide who we were trying to serve. Prior to that, we said, when we started the business, like a lot of people do, we said, okay, we'll
All
take
things to all
anybody.
people, right? All things to all people.
Anybody who has money, come on up. We'll take you. We can help you right over here. Here's who to make the check out to, right? And we were finding we can't be everything to everybody. And there was a moment we sat down. We were at a cafe. This cafe had this big whiteboard wall. And we started just brainstorming. Okay, if we could choose the ideal person to serve, who would that be? How old would this person be? Does this person have kids? Where does this person live? What kind of job do they have? What kind of magazines do they read? What kind of Facebook groups are they part of? And we created this fictional person, our investor avatar.
Called an avatar. It's called an
That's
avatar,
right.
guys. That's what they call that. Yeah, we do the
That's
same
right.
thing for my coaching clients. My coaching clients typically 30 to 50 years old. Anyway, I'm not keep talking. I'm sorry I interrupted.
Yeah, no worries. We created Jen. She became
Jen. Oh, you name them too. That's right. You got to name them, guys. Good.
That's
Love
right.
it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We knew everything about Jen.
Wow.
And from that moment, then we started to look at every part of our business from the lens of Jen. We said, does this resonate with Jen? Would she want this? Does she want a podcast? Does she like videos better? What kinds of blogs does she read? What kind of terminology is she familiar with that we can put in our blog posts or our newsletters? And everything, it created this brand cohesion. And all of a sudden, we weren't attracting just the Jens of the world. We were attracting all kinds of people because our brand had this strong personality. And when you can communicate that personality, that passion, you can attract all sorts of different people.
Yeah, I'll steal something from Tony too. Tony Robbins. We went to Business Mastery once, and he had talked about falling in love with your customer, falling in love with your client or your customer. And that's exactly what we did. Was we were like, who is this person? Who is she? Really? What does she like to do? What does she like to drink? I mean, I could even envision in my mind what kind of a gift I would send Jen, because I know her that intimately. And when we make decisions, like big decisions within our company, we always ask, is this something that Jen needs at this point in time? And that's what guides our decisions. And so our business is built around serving her at the end of the day.
How long ago did you do Business Mastery?
It's a year and a half.
Okay. So I wasn't at that one. I've been to 5 of them. You know, I followed Tony for 20 years and actually was on his team for 8 years.
Nice.
So yeah, I was just curious if it was older than that, because I actually was at one where Tony Hsieh, unfortunately, is no longer with us, built Zappos around the customer experience. There's a reason Jeff Bezos is the richest guy in the world, because of his dogged focus on the customer experience. I mean, we can go and buy something. I could buy anything on my desk in 30 seconds on Amazon because of that focus. So that's awesome insights, guys. Awesome insights. So let me ask you this. What do you think's the best advice you've ever gotten? And I know I didn't prepare you for any of these, so forgive me, but what's the best advice you think you've ever gotten? It doesn't have to be real estate. It can be life, whatever. Answer it any way you like.
I would say for me, it's be persistent, be persistent and go after what you want. Never give up. And when you never give up, you'll eventually one day get what you want, but you got to be persistent, especially in this business, because Annie and I have many odds stacked against us in theory, but we've learned to leverage those odds and actually make them benefits for us. But if you're not persistent in this business, you're not going to make it. Do
you really think you had odds stacked against you? Because I mean, you guys are a force of nature.
Totally.
I'm sorry. I'm not buying it. I'm just not. Okay. I'm just, to me that, and now I believe a lot of women might think that, but I got to tell you, there's women are much more powerful than men. All you have to do is be vulnerable for a moment and men crash and burn. You guys have incredible power. Anyway, I'm sorry. I couldn't let that go by. Annie, how about you?
You know, Rod, some of the best advice has been experiential, and it's come through Julie, actually. I've learned a lot through this partnership. It hasn't always been fun, I'll tell you that, because, the advice sometimes comes, it slaps you in the face, but over time you realize, oh my gosh, that's so right. And so one of the earliest things that Julie taught me was, or one of our coaches said, I had a case of the yeah buts. So Julie would come up with an idea and I'd say, yeah, but here's all the things why we can't do it. Or here's why we can't do it right now. And Julie taught me, if you just reframe it and you just say, well, how can we do this? It changes the conversation, changes your entire mindset. And it has changed it's changed our business.
Yeah.
And so that plus who, not how, I think that's another big one that Julie has imparted on me, is it's not that I have to do everything, not that you have to know how to do everything. She's great at coming up with ideas, and she'd come up with an idea. I'd be like, great. Let me research how to do that. Let me take a class. Let me figure it out. I'll take all these notes. And then 2 months later, she's like, where is it? I'm like, well, I'm still learning about it. And she's like, well, we just need to find the right person who already knows about that, who could already do that. I'm like, oh, okay. So I have definitely learned a lot through this partnership.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And by the way, let me ask you this. Did you guys get married right away, or did you date first? Did you say, let's do a deal?
No, we totally did not date, Rod.
You didn't. You just went all in. But it's obvious you did your homework on each other. You were very careful. But I advise people, do a deal together. Make sure you're okay with each other's work ethic, and so one or even two deals together before you get married. Totally. But that's why I asked. So I like to ask this question of people that are super successful like you guys are. And that is, if you could go back and tell your 18-year-old Annie and Julie something, knowing what you know now, what might you do differently? If anything, maybe nothing, but just curious what your answers might be.
I think for me, it would have been to trust my gut and to trust my intuition a little bit more. Certainly did not start leaning into that until I became a mom, really. And as it's like a weird thing when you become a mom, suddenly that you have to rely on that in so many instances. But when I was 18, I was just looking so much outside of me for the answers. And I needed to look inside of myself for the answers and trust what I felt, So
great answer.
That's what I would have go back and tell myself. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great one. Thank you. How about you, Annie?
When I was 18, I'd followed all the rules, gotten straight A's, valedictorian, headed off to an Ivy League school. I had followed all the rules and I thought I was set for life. And I thought, okay, after college, I'm going to climb the corporate ladder and I'm going to see this milestone and this milestone. That's what I thought at 18. And I wish somebody had told me it's not about working for money. It's about how can you make your money work for you? Find your passion and figure out how to design that life that you want rather than spending your whole life working for somebody else.
You work for someone else and you're not the leader, the view never changes, right? And I love the fact you said design your life. I love that because that's so freaking important. My boot camps, one of the first things we do is this massive goal setting workshop on steroids, because how do you do anything if you don't know what it is that you want? I mean, with some detail and why you want it. Love it. So I want to ask a question. I have a lot of listeners that you've inspired today, guys. I already know that. And I want you to speak to the person, that male or female, that knows they want to do something. They're in the rat race. They've got a W-2. They know they want more. They feel like they'd like to be doing what you're doing. What advice would you have for someone that hasn't pulled the trigger on anything yet, but they know they want more out of life? Can you speak to that person?
If you don't get out there and make this move now and start to make the mistakes that you need to make the progress you need to start to change your life, you will be exactly where you are until the day you die. That's the truth. And it's through the mistakes. And I get this all the time from people is, I'm afraid to make a mistake. I'm afraid to make a mistake, especially from the women. But if mistakes are only mistakes, if we don't learn from them, right? And so you got to get out there and you got to do it. You got to try it. It's like we did that first deal and we made some mistakes, but we learned from it and we dusted ourselves off and we got up and we did it again. And then we made more mistakes and then we dusted ourselves off and we did it again. So the way that you get to where you want to be is by getting in there and getting your hands dirty and making those mistakes. Don't be afraid. Get out there and make those mistakes, because it's from those mistakes where you're going to find the progress.
We mistake our way to success. We fail our way to success. That's the bottom line. I don't know if you guys have ever heard me say this. The two of you, my listeners have heard it, but I got blessed to meet Sarah Blakely, the billionaire owner of Spanx. Started with $5,000, just sold for a few billion, I think. And she told me that her dad, I met her at a mastermind, and she told me that her dad used to ask her and her brother weekly, what have you failed at this week? Or, what mistakes have you made? Let me translate it that way. Isn't that an awesome thing to ask your kids so they don't fear failure? Yeah. Yes. Annie, how about you?
The thing that comes to mind was the moment that I knew I had to quit my job. And you were actually, we talked about this, Rod, you were part of that process, because I reached out to you way back when through Facebook and I asked for your advice. And this is the moment that changed everything for me. And for any listeners out there who are on the fence, like, should I continue? Should I start this side gig? Should I quit my job? This is what did it for me. I heard on a podcast this brilliant exercise where you just sit down, you take a piece of paper, you divide it in half. On one side, you write down all of your fears about this decision that you're trying to make. And on the other side, you write all of your opportunities. It sounds very simple, but it's a powerful exercise, because when you're about to make a decision like this, you got all kinds of fears going around in your head, and you think those fears are bigger than the opportunities, because that's how our brains are wired, to focus on the fear. But when you put it down on paper, here's what happened to me. I sat down, I could have sworn I had all these fears and I shouldn't do it. And I sat down, I started listing out all the fears. And then after like 4, 5, 6, that was it. I couldn't think of anything else. I was like, okay, all right, let me move to the opportunity side. I started writing and I couldn't stop writing. I filled up that entire page. And after it was done, I looked at the paper and it was clear right there in black and white. Look at this tiny list of fears and look at this huge list of opportunity. And it was at that moment I started bawling right there at my kitchen table, because it's not like the fear goes away. I was still so scared, but I knew what I had to do because it was right there on the paper.
Oh, that is brilliant. I mean, that's a Ben Franklin close, basically, the pros and the cons of a decision, but I'd never heard it described that way. I'm going to steal that one, by the way. I love that. Fears and opportunities. That is brilliant, because you're right. You're only going to have a handful of fears. And there are only two big fears in life. Tony Robbins talks about this, the fear that we won't be loved and the fear that we're not enough. And all the other little fears kind of translate into those. Awesome answer. Guys, what a treat this has been for me. I'm so grateful for you coming on and so freaking impressed with what you're doing. So listen, very much enjoy seeing you again. And you guys are changing the world, and I'm blessed to know you. So thanks for coming on, guys.
Thanks.
Right back at you, Rod. We're blessed to be here.
Oh, thank you. All right, guys. See you later. Thanks.
Rod, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. Now, I know you've been hard at work helping our Warrior students do just that using our ACT methodology, which is awareness, close, and transform. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
You bet. Guys, we've been going nonstop for 3 years, building an amazing community of like-minded people. And our coaching students, which we call our warriors, have had extraordinary results. They've purchased thousands and thousands of units. And last year, we did over 1,000 units with our students. And we're looking to grow this group and take it to the next level. We're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework that's really step by step, and then leverage our systems and network to raise equity, to find and close deals, and to build partnerships nationwide. Now, our warrior community is finding success in any market cycle. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more of our incredible network and take advantage of the incredible opportunities that are coming very soon, apply to work with us at mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 72345, and we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out. That's mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 72345.